Probably a credit-based system. If run by the right people, like honest people, that's, I think, would be where we should be going.
Or even
Go ahead.
negative interest rates.
What does that mean?
People stop holding on to money. Basically, the idea is that the money basically goes stale. So the longer you hold on to your money, it devalues. So you're not going to have people sitting on like $100 billion. Like it keeps things circulating.
Yeah, but we have such a caste system that we've created. We have people worth how much and people worth how much.
Yeah, exactly. And the people who would pass that law are the people who have $100 billion.
Exactly.
The 1%ers.
There's still 17,000 kids a day dying from starvation on this planet. That's a conscious problem.
Yeah, one billionaire gives up their money to feed everybody.
Exactly. We all started eating organic and quit eating cows.
For the amount of the bailouts, we could have fixed the entire energy infrastructure.
Yeah, but at the same time, had they not put in those bailouts, we wouldn't have like a monetary infrastructure to repair anything.
It's going to crash anyways.
This is
Agreed.
true, but it's bought all of us time to make something ready.
No, that's true.
It's got all of us time to start like growing underneath and making our own little canopy, so when the infrastructure collapses, we're ready.
A kind of blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Not for the right reasons, but ends up being for the right thing anyways.
I mean, if you think about it, there's always going to be a counterbalance. It's just difficult to see. Like a really good example of this counterbalance, right? In the midst of World War II, when it was kind of at its worst, Albert Hofmann synthesized LSD in the neutral country, you know, and that's what really helped break the movement of like post-war sort of capitalism, because it was all these kids that just got like deconstructed, you know, and as much as it lost at that time, it started to recede. You know, that breaking away, that availability still makes it. I don't know. I just realized that I was being recorded.
Yeah, no pressure. Sorry, guys.
sorry.
I'll just be quiet here and just tape you guys. Sorry.
Oh, we still want your input.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. You know, the mistakes of those times, you know, a lot of people like used without understanding what it meant. And now we have those lessons and we have those elders to learn how to use these things, and it's a really important tool to sort of like deconstruct the preconditioning that would limit us by limiting our syntax and our personal experience of how capable we really are to make things new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's always balance. That's the thing.
Did you pull up language?
The rising of the age of Aquarius.
Yeah, so we've got Guantanamo Bay, but then we also got WikiLeaks, right?
So reskilling society. Big job. We can do it.
Does anyone have a starting point for this?
My computer just restarted, Josh. You're gonna be quicker.
Okay.
It's 2 days. Automatically restarted something.
Yeah, basically right now we're starting at a pretty blank page.
Okay.
There's a bunch of different ways we can go about this.
Start with it's got really good ideas.
Just bear with me here.
That's quite the list of notes you had going here. No, that's excellent. Gives us something to elaborate on.
Well, we're talking about kids. What were we just talking about? I lost my train of thought. Just like that. Balance. Children. The rising of the feminine. The dawning of the age of Aquarius. It's time for the women to step up and for the men to start giving them their place right beside, right? As opposed to, that's the problem with the world, is that men are based on, yeah, exactly. We're based on profit, and women are based on relationships, and nobody's taking care of the planet. And this is the only place that we know that we can live right now.
Plus, it's like our home.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of. Well, in a way.
Depends on your perspective, I guess, of history.
Well, the thing that I was thinking is we were talking about kids. You know how when you're talking with a child, you always tell them to use their words,
Yeah,
right? This is a problem that adults have.
I agree.
We don't know how to use our words. and we get frustrated and we get angry instead, as opposed to discussing things and actually communicating.
Well, to take that to a higher level, I was just discussing that about political views. Now we're using guns and force as opposed to our words and diplomacy. Just simple diplomacy has seemed to be gone out the window, and that alone, use your words. I tell my daughter that every single day, and our politicians seem to need reminding on that. I mean, our country has bombs going off on Libya right now, and the UN has sanctioned this, and I'm trying to get politicians to question that. Just because the UN said it was okay, are you sure that was the right decision? Because from my perspective, it wasn't. Just because the UN gave us permission, please reconsider your stance.
Comes down to thinking for yourself.
Yeah,
Questioning really is what it comes down to.
exactly.
Well, UN had a good chance to actually be something good in the world, and they lost it because the same reason that everything else happens wrong in the world, because over a short or long period of time they become corrupted, special interest groups become involved, and people start swaying their opinions, and they just kind of fall into the same patterns as everything else. If they can be used as a worldwide moving mechanism, they're a target for people who want worldwide power or their own needs, instead of actually being a force for good change.
Yep.
So the UN's an unfortunate mistake, or it had a good idea but it was screwed up.
A lot of follow the money issues. That's what I find the root of the problem is. You just follow the money and you'll see where the corruption is.
Oh, absolutely. It always
Yeah.
ends up there.
Yeah.
Bono.
If people actually start really using their words and getting involved in conversation, that's how we create change.
Yep.
Because nothing happens when you're not involved. It's an impossibility. For example, the Pygmies, they don't have a word for stutter in their language, and they don't have anybody that stutters. It doesn't exist. That's how words create.
Just talking about that.
Yeah, and so something that I've been working on is I want to recreate the entire dictionary, because I think if you take out all of the negative and debilitating stuff, that it doesn't exist. Because that's how it was in my life when I was in my cocaine addiction and alcoholism and everything. Once I had to do is I had to remove myself from that situation and look at it from a different level of consciousness and see, why does this stuff keep happening? Where's the patterns? Where is it coming from? And it was because of my words. I was illiterate almost. I could barely write. I couldn't really formulate sentences very good, and I thought I knew everything. And now that I'm getting educated, I realize I know nothing.
Well, it's interesting. I feel like I'm being re-educated, where I have to wipe the slate clean, because every single day I learn a new lie that I have thought was the truth for the last 34 years. So in a lot of ways I feel completely where I'm almost going backwards, where I have to undo programming to find the truth, to recognize what is the truth, try to figure it out. So that's exactly where I'm at. And it was interesting, you were talking about, being almost reborn. And it really is like that for me as well. I always thought it was from the way I grew up. We didn't use our words, which is what I'm trying to do now with my daughter. We always use our words. So, it's a progression. Maybe, I don't know how old you are, but I was just wondering if it was
41.
my age.
I'm the oldest in the group, I'm sure.
Oh, right.
It's another one of those things that so many things go back to the Matrix, which are you have to unlearn everything you thought you knew,
Yeah, you gotta
because
come from the whiteboard.
you were taught how to be a nice little battery. Someone who's just down there at the bottom, like doing what they do and not being involved, not getting in the way, and just creating this churn that goes on to the people at the top. So
Yep.
we have to actually learn how to re-empower ourselves, which fits into all of this. In a certain way about words, though, in some ways they allow us to communicate, in some ways they confuse. One of my favorite quotes of all time is by a book I read, and it was, "That is the tragedy of language, my friend. Those who use words to describe each other, those who use language are forced to imagine each other, and because our imagination is imperfect, they're normally wrong, right?
Yeah.
And we're sitting here, we try to describe what we're all thinking and all feeling, but it comes down to we're normally wrong because we're trying to do it through this shared use of words that doesn't really describe what we're thinking and feeling, which is why the concept of love is really hard to put into words, because there's not really anything that really, that's just a word someone made up.
Just prior to you coming here, I was talking about my daughter, and I was talking about how, you know, we learn from her, how she has wisdom, and at first I said naive wisdom, and then we kind of refound the word and said innocent wisdom, you know, and that's exactly what you're saying here. It's just we have such bad description for the gravity of what we're talking about.
If we didn't have language, like George Carlin was like, language ends up confusing some things, right?
Yep.
He's a linguistic master. Like George Carlin's my all-time hero, and he's like, the longer and longer I think about it, the more I realize that language is really confusing everything and is a tool to get people to do what you want instead of actually communicating directly, which is where intuition in the feminine comes in. And we should be more intuitive and feel the things that are going on around us and not ignore that because of so much language about the stuff that's happening. And I think we put a lot of stuff out because of language.
You guys are absolutely resonating with me, because when I had my daughter, I woke up, and I say that because I felt like a spiritual awakening. What literally happened was I gave birth to myself and realized that we have been suppressing our intuition. And when you talked about women saving us, well, that's what when I had my daughter, I mean, I'm reprogramming myself daily and trying not to program my daughter with inconsequential things, like you said, you know, plugging her into the battery, how to be a good battery. And I see it all the time where, you know, we have a choice. We can make her right now understand that this is the way society works. And we've been talking about moving to Costa Rica just to get out of this culture of, you know, framing children to become unhappy adults is the best way to put it. That realize that we've lost our potential.
You can conform, or you can be an actual human being.
Yeah, exactly. And yet you can see how, with having a baby, how they grow, and we try to suppress their, in every way, shape, and form, we suppress them. So it's been very liberating for me to realize I thought I was a slave to the society. Well, it's even worse as a baby, coming out, trying to become this wonderful human being, free, with no, you know, I call them mental cages, no mental cages. And then we basically teach them the mental cage. This is how we want you to think.
You're in this box, here are the rules, follow them blindly, and you will be successful in the world. You'll have money and things, and if you have enough
money
things,
and
you'll
things
be happy
work.
in the world.
Yeah. When the most miserable people I know happen to be the richest, in the sense of money. You know, they're alone, happy in their empty home of, you know, like void of positive energy.
And I can't remember who said it, but someone else recently said we're taught up to believe that we need luxuries and comfort things in the world to be happy, when all we need is something to be enthusiastic about. Something to drive us and something to feel good about what we're doing is what we really need to feel the deep inner happiness. The rest is all kind of inconsequential. But
It is.
Ask any parent what they want for their kids. They'll say happiness.
Yep.
Ask any parent how many of them
to
have
be
it.
something, right? To do something great. Yeah, and then once you actually get to the point where you're like, I'm going to do something great, they're like, well, you need to make sure you're having a good job, you make good money.
As long as that
Not be
happiness.
under our standards.
Yeah, exactly.
I want you to be happy, but I don't want you to rise
filter.
above what I did in my life, right? I don't want you to be anything bigger or greater than what I did, because then it's going to piss me off.
Well,
Right?
you know,
Then it's an ego
that's
thing.
not like all parents though. Like some parents, however, they want you to do your best, but they have this sense of like, you said, naive
How
wisdom.
better than me?
So it's like, oh, mommy, daddy, I'm gonna be an artist when I get older. Oh, that's so wonderful. But what are you gonna do as a job?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be an artist, but how are you gonna make money?
Money, yeah.
You need to have a big house.
Totally.
And a
Totally.
nice car. And how are you
Or
gonna
even
do
if
that?
it's just like, you need to have security.
You need to be realistic. That's what they always say. Like,
Yeah, you need to be realistic.
It's like I can't even count how many times I've heard that. Like, be realistic. This isn't the way things work.
Security is
you know?
another one.
It's like it's only things don't work that way because we decided that they don't work that way.
Yes.
That's the only reason they don't work.
Because nobody's questioning why they're not working. The system's not working. There's
Exactly. And people don't want to recognize it, right? Because we all have a part in this system. And nobody really wants to take responsibility for it. I mean, we all have responsibility for it. Like, it's not like we just inherited this system, which we did. But, you know, our parents also inherited this system. So they're not totally at fault either. Like it's like
Yeah.
it's literally everyone. That's the thing. Everyone has to be on board with it.
Think of what the percentage of people on the planet are that are sitting around going, I know stuff's really, really bad right now, but I mean, I'm too busy living my life. Someone else will fix it, right? Like,
Comfortable
it's
too.
gonna go back up,
Yeah.
but people will. There's gonna be someone who will take care of all this, and we're gonna go back up. Society's gonna go back up. All the jobs are gonna come back. It's gonna be great because that's what happened every time in the past. Is it went down and then it went back up, so we're cool.
To a degree, I mean, I do think that there are people who are going to make the effort to like be there to rebuild the infrastructure, and then there are other people who need to make their effort, which is to paint their pictures or to write their books or to take care of their kids.
Right.
You know, you have to run. It's like
Agreed.
you don't have to feel like you need to fix the world just because it's time to recognize that something's broken.
Yeah.
Like, you can recognize that it's broken, you can recognize that it needs to be fixed, and you can also recognize that somebody is going to fix it, as long as you also recognize that you need to be doing your part, no matter how small that part might be in relation to the big picture, because it is.
Well, that's like what we talked about. I'm not an organizer, and I'm surrounded by organizers in the Zeitgeist movement who all seem very, very organized and are planning and fixing and like doing all this specific stuff. And I'm an artist. I'm speaking out and trying to influence others and trying to like spread the word, and that's my part, is to
Spread the message.
be an artist and make this, spread the message to the larger audience, to the larger population. So everyone does have the part to play. And you have to kind of realize what your part is and what you're good at and what you do. So I've had to accept that I'm not good at like actually figuring things out and how stuff works with the infrastructure, but it's an important part still. And writing books and making the art and talking about it is really important as well.
Inspiring people is empowering people,
I agree.
right? And like, just because you're not fixing it doesn't mean that you're not fixing something. And if we look into the idea of collective consciousness, like, I've had enough experience for me to recognize that when I break down a boundary in my own life, whether it be like very like ethereal idea if it's in the collective consciousness, or like a little bit more science-based, or like, hey bro, like morphogenetic fields, the idea of like resonating like new skills, the skill to no longer fall victim to a reaction of anger to some specific social input, right, is a skill that benefits our species, and so it gets learned. Right?
Absolutely.
So every time I break a barrier down in my own life,
Nice to meet you, Joe.
I've made that barrier
Yep.
dissolved
Do you
more
feel comfortable
easily
being paid?
for everyone else in the collective mind,
We're not staying.
right? So we all have a part to play, even if it
I
is
wouldn't take you if you
taking
didn't feel
pictures,
comfortable.
even if
Thank
it
you,
is
Joe.
like writing books
And
or
it's
guiding
good.
meditation.
Hi, Sam.
That's walking around planting seeds.
Yeah.
There's some
I'm
people
excellent. How
walking
are
around
you?
planting seeds.
Excellent to see you,
There are
as
other
always.
people
I'm
to
glad you
harvest
made it. I thought you said you
and
weren't going to
water
make it. Or no, you said you would come.
right? That will take care of. Like,
I
once
had
you
to do some
start,
juggling when I got
Yeah,
here.
I'm like,
there's a
somebody
lot of
else
other people
would have
behind you
come. I thought it
waiting,
was you for some
just
reason.
waiting to harvest that. Waiting
Now you're
to
stuck with
fully,
me now.
like,
You guys want to slide in here?
We're
back
not
out.
sure
waiting
if
for those
it's too
to come
long.
in,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I who said this to me?
I'll sit on this.
Daniel Vitalis
Hold in there.
made this comment, and I thought it was brilliant. He said to me, he said to a group of us, I felt like he was speaking directly to me because I was in the midst of like, wow, so awesome inspiration. But he said, I know that the majority of the things I'm doing for me,
Can I give you a hug?
yeah, of course. Hello.
How are you?
Good. I haven't looked at that to talk to you about for
Oh.
the future. In the now, at another time, is the idea that most of the things that he's doing is not for him. Like, all the things that he's learning about, like learning how to, what he calls surthrival, so like basically bringing the human body back to its near invincible level of health, and how to like live in the wild at any point, but also recognizing that we're in a contemporary like modern society and how to balance that. He says, like, I'm not doing this just for me. I'm doing this for my children and my children's 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 children, because I'm activating, genetic expression that may not be fully realized for 4 or 5 generations past me. And I think that's important to consider too. When you said we're always planting seeds, and some people are harvesting seeds or harvesting fruit, and other people are watering, and other people are weeding. You know, like those seeds that you're planting, you know, they don't necessarily have to be right here, right now. What we're establishing is, like, I doubt that we're gonna see everything perfect in our lifetime.
No.
Or at all, even close to it.
I disagree.
Well,
You think so?
Absolutely.
I think. Well, it was okay. On that topic, there's we all have a need to feel like that we are going to see it all happen. That we're going to see the whole thing, and I think we are going to see the beginning. I think we're going to be here for the change. I don't think we'll actually see it come to its full fruition at all. But
2016.
But people used to live in a different way, right? The cathedrals that were built were started by people. They were planned out and started by people, and there'd be people that worked on that their whole lives and went and never actually saw the completion of those things. But that wasn't the point. They started the project and knew that it would get completed sometime in their life or beyond their life, and that was really what was important, that it got started in the first place. And we've gotten to the point where we want everything now. We want to see it happen. We want to be there for it. It's kind of greedy, but like if we can be there for the start of it, if we can see this whole thing happen, like at least begin, that's enough for me. If we can see it come to start its fruition and start the building of this cathedral, and that's an amazing thing. It has started, and we're going to be here for the groundwork, but it's going to be up to the next generations to really pull it all off, and we may or may not be around for that. Who cares? It's going to happen. It needs to happen. That's the right thing to do.
Yeah, we're planting those seeds. And I like the comment you used about, like, or the analogy of cathedral, because I don't know if any of you have read Aldous Huxley's Heaven and Hell, right? Which is like the follow-up to Doors of Perception. He talks about, like, the history of altering consciousness in regards to, like, art and religious movement, and he talks about the idea of the cathedral and the great vast archway. Walking in was actually a process that you walk in, and because you're just looking up at so much, it puts you in this state of like awe for the holy, because you're like, you know. So it's interesting that what we're building here, like culturally or like socially or, you know, like interpersonally, to use as a cathedral. I like that one.
Yeah, I really like that. It makes me think, like, maybe we will see it, maybe we won't. But the idea, like that final product, that cathedral, like we have to really sort of identify with that. Like, what would it be like to walk into that cathedral? Or what would it be like to actually see this completed? Like, imagine opening day. I mean, maybe we're gonna get there, maybe we're not. But you know, I think we should think that we can. Maybe we won't, but I think that we should really think we can anyway.
And embody it. Like,
Well,
we're already the product.
For our lives
Exactly.
to mean something, it means
Exactly.
that we went from having a shit to seeing the beginning of the new world that we're actually talking about, the awakening actually coming to fruition. That's enough meaning for my whole life, right? Like, that means that I did something, that I was a part of it, and that I was there for this whole thing, to see it spark, to see the whole thing happen, and for it to change and move in that direction. I don't need to see the whole thing to its absolute finality, and there is no finality, there is no perfection, it'll keep going. So if we can be here for that change, switch from when there wasn't anything to when we started it, that's totally good enough for me.
It's almost like building a fire. You know, like right now we're building the fire, and you know, I think what we should be striving for is to build that fire up to the point that it's going to take off, and without a doubt, it's going. Like, it's fully going. We may not see it at its brightest, and we may not see it when it burns out.
We're all sitting around going,
But
Okay, we got lots of hot air in here. We're good.
And we walk away from that fire, that it's going to be going for whoever else happens to gather around it afterwards.
Yeah, making a warm space for the people coming in from the cold. I like that analogy too.
Like, yeah.
Cool. So how do we start that? What is reskilling society?
I'll read this language off here. Get us fired up.
Did you guys pick a date, sorry?
Yeah,
We had a couple, depending on what we decide to do with it.
What were you guys thinking?
Well, I think the big problem with society is education.
Tuesday the 19th is Sunday.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. It's rampant.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about time banking, which I think is a great idea.
Right,
How about
for
knowledge
everyone's
banking?
going on holiday or whatever.
have a
It's
site.
cool. I just wasn't sure. I'm like, if
That we
you
put
guys
up.
were planning, ended up.
We'll give you all the
second
ideas
maybe
that you want. We'll
that
put
or whatever.
as many videos, conscious, whatever you want to think of, and it's all free.
Well, did you see?
It's
Did you
okay.
see? You met Jamie last week, or at the sport at the area?
Possibly.
He's starting a website where he wants to capture people's ideas and rank them, so that you have like a centralized place of where the
Spiritual
layman
seed.
philosopher is coming out, because like those are the ideas that
That's
really
what
have weight
Facebook
right
is,
now.
though.
Yeah, but Facebook, like you were saying earlier, you know, like Facebook is so much more that it's easy to get lost in this convolution.
And people won't go to Facebook necessarily to look for things like
That are specific.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or to
Scrolls in
even
their
post
lap.
stuff like that. Like, I don't post a lot of my stuff on Facebook because it's
Because all your friends think you're weird.
no. Oh God, no, no. Well, I'm sure all my friends do think I'm weird, but that's not the reason why. I would rather post it somewhere where I know that the right consciousness is kind of like get accessing it, if that makes sense. Like, or in a personal blog or something like that. It's like, I don't know if I want the people on Facebook to necessarily know what the ideas are that I'm having. Maybe I'm a little bit of a
It's
conspiracy
the
theorist.
third
but-
biggest
You know,
country in the
they might
world.
need it- they might need it the most.
Yeah, but some people on there might need it the most, but some people might do not so good things with certain ideas and thoughts that people have. So
But is that reason to limit like the avenue by which you share what feels intuitively like the right idea for you?
I think you just gotta
I'm
do
still-
what's right for you. Maybe your right thing isn't to show up to everyone. You know what I mean?
like that's
I
what
wanna
feels
be-
not
I wanna
right
be
to me,
welcoming
so that's why I'm
everyone
not
in
doing
my house,
it.
But at the same point in time, I just understand that there's certain people who, it wouldn't even be mutually beneficial for us to both be coming over here. You know, there's just some people who are at a different vibration, and it might actually do them more harm. They might end up scrambled and not really know how to deal with it, right? So.
I think it depends what you're looking at too, because I went through the same thing with like, who do I invite to these Evolver things? And I started going through my friends list. Oh, I'll invite them. I'll invite them, and I was like, no, I'll just invite
Invite
everybody.
everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
And
said
then
like, who am I to make the
yeah.
judgment?
You
call?
don't
Why am I
know.
making that call?
Yeah.
Somebody
I
should
show up
make
that I
that
would
call.
never expect, and it
Yeah,
could totally
exactly.
be something.
Exactly.
Yeah, like it is like on both sides of the spectrum, right? Like I'm sure there's lots of people on Facebook that would find great value in what somebody might post on there, but then yeah, there's that same potential for I don't know.
I look at every time I put a paste on Facebook that it can go viral. It can go out to the entire planet, whatever it is. Because 1 in 9 people on the planet's on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's the third biggest country in the world. You
I
know,
wouldn't have known about tonight if it wasn't for you posting that on your Facebook page.
Oh yeah. Or
I
having
posted it on
having
his.
Posted on my Facebook page.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think of that too. Like I get like comments from friends from like 6 years ago that
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't even know, and I look at their Facebook pages and it doesn't look like they're. I don't want to make this sound weird, but it doesn't seem like they've learned how to embody their passions in a way that is really advancing their lives towards
Yeah.
it. It seems like they've allowed themselves to get crippled under a state of like lacking prosperity because of whatever their socioeconomic situation is. And then I get these amazing responses of people who are really interested in these ideas that I'm putting out. You know, and then I think like, well maybe, you know, like they're inspired. Good. I'm gonna keep putting it out there.
I think it needs to be put out there because more and more people are coming to these realizations, and if they don't have, they kind of start looking, and then they can easily find things and connect with people. Then it's just a lot easier for them to do that.
Well, I think we're one of the first generations really have absolutely no church in our lives, because a lot of our parents didn't have church, and then we didn't have church. And I honestly feel like what we're talking about is that collective atmosphere that you get at church, where you have your community and your support network. That's all we're doing here, is we're building everybody that we spiritually believe the same thing and putting it out on Facebook. We are attracting like-minded people. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Community and the ritual, you know.
That's right.
Go down to these other countries and they're meeting like out in the parks every day and
Yeah.
dancing around and
See,
you know,
I
playing
don't.
instruments.
I do see like huge benefit in posting like the events on the Facebook, but necessarily like I don't know, like I feel totally comfortable speaking at an Evolver event about my thoughts and ideas and the things that I'm thinking about, because I know that it's going to reach those people, and we've already reached those people through that Facebook event page or whatever. But then just like posting it right on Facebook is is everybody on Facebook ready to have that?
Accessible almost.
But we're preaching to the choir if we're limiting.
Yeah.
And the choir already knows what you're going to say. And they're
people-
excited about it. but they're the same people.
The people who are going to look at that idea and be like, well, that's silly, I want nothing to do with it. They're just not going to have anything to do with it.
And at least
And
they've
they're probably
seen
not even
that
going to read
idea.
it. That's the other thing, is that most people aren't even ever going to click it.
Yeah.
People aren't ready to click it. Like it literally shuts their mind out. Like it's a blind spot for them, so they're not even going to look at it.
Well,
Or at least they've
challenges
seen
them.
it, because then if they start to think it
Well, it's a
later,
seed,
I was
right?
gonna say
Seed being
it's the whisper. Like you guys talk about the seeds, and I don't know if you all know, but I'm like the 9/11 truther. I am a conspiracy theorist. I'm proud to be this person. I have no problems
with you too.
agreeing
Yeah.
to being this person at all. And so I post quite frequently the exact same stuff about 9/11. And the reason why is because my ex-boyfriend became an evangelist pastor for the firefighters, and even he's starting to read my stuff more and send me little PMs about things. So, I mean, that was the last person on the planet that I thought would question a few of these things. So I call it whispers. And everybody, like, there's that expression that if you tell a lie enough, that people will begin to believe it as a truth. Well, I think the positive way to look at that is that if you have a truth and you're, whispering it and whispering it and whispering it, more and more people start to whisper it, and it becomes a reality, and people will listen to the truth. So I think it goes the other way. I know that expression is a negative expression, but there is a positive in it, and the fact that the exact same thing can happen. If you whisper a truth enough, it will come out.
You know
So,
what? The important thing about that is that you're whispering it.
Yeah.
Because if you're standing out and screaming it out to people,
yes, they're not listening.
people are going to resist that. People
Yeah.
are going to resist that. And if you can just sort of ease into it and not come across too threateningly, like if it's too big, people put up walls because it challenges too much. Like it's not just one piece. It's like, okay, if I believe that, Kennedy was assassinated by someone other than a lone gunman, well, then that also means this, and it attaches like a bunch of other ramifications to it. So people are just like, whoa, okay,
It's too big.
that's a little bit too much. That's too much for me right now. I don't even want to think about that, right? Like, that's just too crazy. That means
Yeah.
everything is screwed up right now, and that's
Yeah.
that's too much. But anyhow, we need to hammer on with this reskilling here. So
Sure.
Okay, sorry you guys.
No, thanks for coming out even for a minute.
For sure, yeah. It's kind of,
Nice to meet you. Take care.
nice to meet
are
you.
you going to the first thing?
Which one?
Verge Permaculture, I think you invited me to it.
The
like-
the open
I'm just shot of her boob. I'm like,
I'm kind of spearheaded.
okay, that's enough of that.
Like the revolver, but it's gonna be awesome. I've been to that yard before. It's
Because I'm working